Step into the shadows of history as we unveil the top 5 most brutal torture devices of the medieval era. These instruments of agony remind us of a time when justice was served with merciless precision. First up, the Iron Maiden. No, not that Iron Maiden. Often associated with medieval era's most harrowing forms of punishment, it was a device of dread. It was a human-sized cabinet, a grim sarcophagus of iron. Inside, it harboured a deadly secret, a collection of sharp spikes positioned with malice intent. As the victim was forced into the narrow chamber of horrors, the door would close. The spikes, though not long enough to grant a swift end, would pierce the flesh in multiple places. This diabolical design ensured their vital organs were avoided, prolonging the torment. While the Iron Maiden is emblematic of medieval torture, historical accuracy is debated. Then, the Brazen Bull, also known as the Bronze Bull or Sicilian Bull, was a notorious torture and execution device from ancient Greece. It was a hollow sculpture made entirely of bronze, shaped like a bowl with a door on one side. Victims were placed inside the bull and a fire was set underneath, heating the metal until the person inside was roasted to death. The bull's head was engineered with a complex system of tubes and stocks, which transformed the screams of the suffering into the bellowing of an infuriated bull, adding a chilling auditory dimension to the already gruesome execution. Behold the rack, a device synonymous with torment. Victims were strapped down, their limbs tethered to chains. As the wheel turned, their bodies were stretched to the breaking point, often resulting in permanent disfigurement or death. In some cases, skilled individuals were employed to ensure the victim didn't die too quickly, allowing for a prolonged torture session. Thirdly, we encounter rat torture, a method as vile as it sounds. Victims lay immobilised, a container with frenzied rats placed upon their abdomen. Heated from above, the desperate creatures clawed and gnawed their way through human flesh. The Tower of London had a notorious rats dungeon, alleged by Catholic writers from the Elizabethan era to be a place where prisoners were subjected to rat attacks as the tides brought in rats from the River Thames. Next, the breaking wheel, a gruesome spectacle of punishment. Condemned souls were lashed to a wheel, their limbs shattered by blunt force of an iron hammer or bar. It was used primarily as an execution, not interrogation device, and was reserved for heinous crimes like treason and murder. After execution, the body might be displayed on a wheel as a warning to others. Left to the mercy of the elements, their cries would fade into the silence of their lonely end. Meet the Judas Cradle, an instrument of slow suffering. The victim was hoisted above a pyramid-shaped seat, their body lowered onto a point. The excruciating pain could last for hours, if not days, leading to infection or death. The device was used to extract confessions or as a punishment, often associated with the Spanish Inquisition. Variations included the Spanish chair or the iron chair, and the chair of nails, both designed to cause intense pain or death. Another one mainly used in the Spanish Inquisition, the heretic's fork, was a brutal torture device. It consisted of a metal piece with 2 opposed bi-pronged forks attached to a belt or a strap. One fork was positioned under the chin and the other against the sternum, and the strap was used to keep the head raised. The design ensured that the forks penetrated flesh, causing significant pain without damaging vital points, thus prolonging agony. Victims were unable to lower their heads without causing deep wounds, which prevented sleep and eventually led to mental and physical exhaustion. The heretic's fork was often used to punish those accused of heresy or to coerce confessions from the tortured individuals. It was one of the many devices invented during the Middle Ages to extract confessions through prolonged torture. The tub was a particularly gruesome form of execution that capitalised on the victim's own biology to induce suffering. It involved confining the person in a wooden tub with only their head sticking out. The victim's face was smeared with milk and honey, attracting flies and other insects. Over time, the insects would begin to feed on the victim, leading to a slow and agonising death. Beyond the physical pain, this method of torture was designed to inflict psychological terror. The victim was fully conscious of the insects consuming them, adding a layer of mental anguish to their ordeal. The process was not even quick. It could take days or even weeks, as the victim was left to decay alive, which was both punishment and a public spectacle. The tub also served as a form of public humiliation, with the victim displayed in a state of filth and degradation, often placed in public view. Now, the coffin torture device, also known as the cage or cage coffin, was a metal cage shaped like a coffin, often with spikes on the inside. The victim would be placed inside the cage, which would then be suspended from the gallows or another structure. This form of torture was used as punishment for alleged misdemeanours such as blasphemy or insulting the monarch. It was made public so angry mobs could vent their wrath by throwing missiles at the victim. While the spikes inside the coffin did not necessarily penetrate the victim, they created discomfort and intimidation. The public nature of the punishment made it both physically dangerous and emotionally traumatic. The victim could be left in the coffin for extended periods, exposed to the elements and the ridicule or anger of passers-by. The sight of a person encased in such a device served as a warning to others and was intended to deter similar offences by instilling fear in the community. There is a historical debate about the actual existence of coffin torture devices, with some arguing that it may have been a later invention or a creation of sensationalised accounts. And now we have the spreading. The spreading was a form of execution and torture used during the Middle Ages, particularly for serious crimes such as regicide. The condemned person's limbs were tied to ropes attached to horses. As the horses galloped, the limbs were torn from the body, causing excruciating pain and death. It served both as a means of punishment and deterrent, showcasing the severe consequences of committing grave offences. That's a wrap on the chilling world of medieval torture devices. If you found the video interesting, a like would be awesome, or even better, leave a comment below. Keep an eye out for the next adventure into history. Thanks for watching.